Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, when Deborah told me that we needed words for children, I thought this is a great opportunity to read one of my absolute all-time favorite stories. And I'm going to go with a slightly longer, I'm going to go with the full version of the story. Are any of you familiar with it? It's Many Moons by James Thurber.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you're not familiar with it, I think you're in for a treat. If you are familiar with it, it's always good to hear it again. Once upon a time, in a kingdom by the sea, there lived a little princess named Lenore. She was 10 years old, going on 11. One day, Lenore fell ill of a surfeit of raspberry tarts and took to her bed. The royal physician came in to see her and took her temperature and felt her pulse and made her stick out her tongue. The royal physician was worried. He sent for the king, Lenore's father, and the king came to see her. "I will get you anything your heart desires," the king said. "Is there anything your heart desires?" "Yes," said the princess, "I want the moon. If I can have the moon, I will be well again." Now the king had a great many wise men who always got for him anything he wanted, so he told his daughter that she could have the moon. Then he went to the throne room and pulled the bell cord, 3 long pulls and a short pull. And presently the Lord High Chamberlain came into the room. The Lord High Chamberlain was a large, fat man who wore thick glasses, which made his eyes seem twice as big as they really were. This made the Lord High Chamberlain seem twice as wise as he really was. "I want the moon," said the king. "Princess Lenore wants the moon. If she can have the moon, she will get well again." "The moon!" exclaimed the Lord High Chamberlain, his eyes widening. This made him look 4 times as wise as he really was. "Yes, the moon," said the king. M-O-O-N, moon. "Get it tonight, tomorrow at the latest." The Lord High Chamberlain wiped his forehead with a handkerchief and then blew his nose loudly. "I have got a great many things for you in my time, your majesty," he said. "It just happens that I have with me a list of the things I've got for you in my time." He pulled out a long scroll of parchment. "Let me see now," he glanced at the list, frowning. "I've got ivory, apes, peacocks, rubies, opals, and emeralds, black orchids, pink elephants, and blue poodles, gold bugs, scarabs, and flies in amber, hummingbirds, angels' feathers, and unicorns' horns, giants, midgets, and mermaids, frankincense, ambergris, and myrrh, troubadours, minstrels, and dancing women, a pound of butter, 2 dozen eggs, and a sack of sugar." Sorry, my wife wrote that in there. "I don't remember any blue poodles," said the king. "It says blue poodles on the list, and they're checked off with a little check mark," said the Lord High Chamberlain, "so there must have been blue poodles. You just forgot. You just forgot." "Never mind the blue poodles," said the king. "What I want now is the moon." "I have sent as far as Samarkand and Araby and Zanzibar to get things for you, your majesty," said the Lord High Chamberlain, "but the moon is out of the question. It is 35,000 miles away, and it's bigger than the room the princess lies in. Furthermore, it's made of molten copper. I cannot get the moon for you. Blue poodles, yes. The moon, no." The king flew into a rage and told the Lord High Chamberlain to leave the room and to send the royal wizard into the throne room. The royal wizard was a little thin man with a long face. He wore a high red-peaked hat covered with silver stars and a long blue robe covered with golden owls. His face grew very pale when the king told him that he wanted the moon for his little daughter and that he expected the wizard to get it. "I have worked a great deal of magic for you in my time, your majesty," said the royal wizard. "As a matter of fact, I just happen to have a list of the wizardries I've performed for you." He drew a paper from a deep pocket of his robe. It begins, "Dear royal wizard, I am returning here with the so-called philosopher's stone which you..." No, I'm sorry, that isn't it. The royal wizard brought out a long scroll of parchment from another pocket. "Here it is," he said. "Now let's see. I have squeezed blood out of turnips for you and turnips out of blood. I have produced rabbits out of silk hats and silk hats out of rabbits. I have conjured up flowers, tamarines, and doves. I have brought you divining rods, magic wands, and crystal spheres in which to behold the future. I have compounded eloquence and potions to cure heartbeat, surfeit, and ringing in the ears. I have made you my own special mixture of wolfbane, nightshade, and eagle's tears to ward off witches. I have given you 7-league boots, the golden touch, and a cloak of invisibility. It didn't work, said the king. The cloak of invisibility didn't work. Yes, it did, said the royal wizard. No, it didn't, said the king. I kept bumping into things. The cloak of invisibility is designed to make you invisible, said the royal wizard. It's not supposed to keep you from bumping into things. All I know is I kept bumping into things, said the king. The royal wizard looked at his list again. I got you horns from Elfland, sand from the Sandman, gold from the rainbow, and also a spool of thread, a paper, needles, lump of beeswax. Sorry, those are things my wife wrote down for me to get her. What I want you to do now, said the king, is to get the moon. Princess Lenore wants the moon. If she gets it, she will be well again. Nobody can get the moon, Your Majesty. It's 150,000 miles away, and it's made of green cheese. And it's as big as this whole palace. The king flew into another rage and sent the royal wizard back to his cave. Then he rang a gong and summoned the royal mathematician. The royal mathematician was a bald-headed, nearsighted man with a skull cap on his head and a pencil behind each ear. He wore a black suit with white numbers on it. I don't want to hear a long list of all the things you've figured out for me since 1907, the king said to him. I want you to figure out how to get the moon for Princess Lenore. When she gets the moon, she will be well again. I'm glad you mentioned all the things I figured out for you since 1907, said the royal mathematician. It so happens I have a list of them with me. He pulled out a long scroll of parchment and looked at it. I have figured out for you the distance between the horns of a dilemma, night and day, and A to Z. I have computed how far is up, how long it takes to get away, and what becomes of gone. I have discovered the length of sea serpents, the price of the priceless, and the square of the hippopotamus. I know where you are when you are at 6s and 7s, how much you have when you have to make an hour, and how many birds you can catch with all the salt of the ocean. 187,796,132 if it would be of any interest to you. There aren't that many birds, said the king. I didn't say there were, said the royal mathematician. I said if there were. I don't want to hear about imaginary birds, said the king. I want you to get the moon for Princess Lenore. The moon is 300,000 miles away, said the royal mathematician. It is round and flat like a coin, only it's made of asbestos, and it's half the size of this kingdom. Furthermore, it's pasted on the sky. Nobody can get the moon. The king flew into still another rage and sent the royal mathematician away. Then he rang for the court jester. The jester came bounding into the throne room in his motley cap and bells and sat at the foot of the throne. What can I do for you, Your Majesty, said the court jester. Nobody can do anything for me, said the king mournfully. Princess Lenore wants the moon, and she cannot be well until she gets it. But nobody can get it for her. Every time I ask somebody for the moon, it gets larger and farther away. There is nothing you can do for me except play your lute. Something sad. How big do they say it is, asked the court jester, and how far away? The Lord High Chamberlain said it's 35,000 miles away and bigger than the princess's room. The royal wizard said it's 150,000 miles away and twice as big as the palace. The royal mathematician said it's 300,000 miles away and half the size of the kingdom. The court jester strummed on his lute for a while. They are all wise men, he said, so they must all be right. If they are all right, then the moon must be just as big and just as large and far away as each person thinks it is.